ever since I was a pretty young kid, I think I've always been the annoying kid that knocks on everybody's door and asks a million questions, and I will knock down every door until I get an answer. I think the most important thing to remember when you're looking for a mentor, even in the informal setting of a mentor, is that people are busy, people have a lot going on. So for me, it's always been better to have more than one person to tap into rather than just the one person.
Hello, everyone. Again, to another episode of Basketball Nation Presents Beyond the Athlete podcast. And today we have another special guest. We have today a pioneer in women's basketball as a whole, sneakers, all things culture and innovation. She's also, I'll actually read her profile to you because when I found this out, I was like, wow, like I'm so honored to actually be having a conversation with her today. And you guys should be honored to be hearing from her today as well. She's also the commercial strategy director for ESL Faceit Group, which is a company that helps gaming communities, which we're going to go into a little bit today. She's also a presenter and host for FIBA as a freelancer, currently now with the Eurocup London Lions team, which is fantastic. And we're going to speak about that as well, especially around UK basketball and where it's at now. But she's also an ED&I committee member for Basketball England, which we're also affiliated to as well, which is great. So we're actually speaking to family today. That's fantastic. So so may I present to you all Giulia Zecchini. Nice to meet you. Hi. Did I miss anything out?
No, that was really comprehensive. Thanks for that intro.
Oh, amazing. So Giulia, my first question always is around you. Obviously, I haven't done like the most I can when it comes to introduction. This first time we're meeting. So tell us a bit more about yourself, what your upbringing was like, even though I've said what you do now, but what you actually put a lot of your time into now as well.
Yeah, so I'm originally from Italy. Grew up there. My family's Italian, and I moved I moved around a little bit. I spent some time in France. I spent some time living in Spain, but I moved to the UK when I was 18 to study and try and make something happen for myself. Italy is a wonderful country, but doesn't always have the most opportunities. So moved abroad away from family, got the opportunity to study in the UK. I did my undergrad and my master's here in and around different parts of the Midlands as I was at Warwick University. Then I did my master's at Imperial College.
Amazing.
And started to, I've always been involved in sports, played basketball from a young age. My dad played pro in Italy, so always been around that environment. But overall come from a sports family. My grandfather was a Olympic journalist and swimming journalist and coached the Italian swimming women's team. So have always been sort of in and around that arena. So being very close to my heart. I got the first entry point into sports when I interned for the London 2012 Olympics. So that was my second year of uni. And I interned with the Italian Olympic Committee in London, doing PR, very different to what I do now. And yeah, most of my time is spent on my full-time job, which is in the world of gaming and esports, as you said, which is weird and wonderful and super innovative and cool to work in. Before that, I was working at Formula One, and before that, I was in Premier League football. So I've bounced around different sports. But then my free time is really spent pushing women forward in any sort of field I can. So that's from women's basketball, as you mentioned. So whether it's the WNBA, whether it's EuroLeague Women, whether it's Eurocup Women, British basketball with the London Lions. And then on the side with Sneaker Sisterhood, which is the company that I founded with two of my closest friends, And there it's everything, again, representation for women in the sneaker and fashion scene, where we really saw a gap in the market now 5 years ago, which feels crazy that we've had this going on for 5 years. But yeah, maybe we can touch on it a little bit later.
Oh, that's amazing. So coming from a house myself that I grew up with 4 sisters and my mom, all women, but my background was more fashion than anything else. So my mom and dad were designers. My mom still designs now, but my dad and some of my uncles actually played sports, but they all played football. So I'm the only one in the family that actually got into basketball. So it's in regards to everything that you push in terms of women in sports and everything else. I think that's quite powerful, and that's something I wanted to touch on first, if you don't mind, because for what we do at Basketball Nation is all about pushing the game forward, not just because we want to be the most popular community or anything like that, but it's really to get more people involved, not just young guys, but also ladies as well. So we do have some ladies that have obviously had an interest in what we do and started to come to our sessions. So I think we grew from having like 0 girls to about maybe 8 girls at our sessions, and they play with the boys as well, which is great. So it actually helps them get better. But for me, I've always tried to look at other ways of pushing that forward a bit more. One of the ways that started now, which hopefully will commence in 2024, is starting within a local council. So Ealing and Hammersmith and Fulham, which is pretty much where I grew up, and really pushing the game there with young ladies getting into basketball, because the sport is amazing. And it's crazy. I was telling a story that when I went to see Hezigod play in Blue Cage in the summer with London Hoops guys, and I was leaving, and I saw a group of like 6 girls coming down one of the estate buildings, and I was like, I didn't think anything of it. I was just walking, just saw them coming out, and then as soon as they came out, 2 of them had basketballs with them. They were going to the park to play, and I was like, this is quite interesting. So things like that is so inspiring that you'd think that just putting a basketball court in the middle of a state might be a waste of time, but really and truly, what could they have been doing compared to them going to play basketball now with their friends? So it would be great to know, in terms of like from your end, what sort of things you've done over the years to really push women in sports, women in entrepreneurship, business, and so on as well.
Yeah, I mean, I love everything that you said, and I love that more girls are coming to your I think grassroots sport.
We need more.
Yeah, not just basketball. I just think sports is such an important aspect of life. Like, sport changes lives, and I genuinely, truly believe that it's the
100%.
that it is an equalizer. Like, it doesn't matter where you come from, who you are, what you look like. Like, sport just equalizes. And seeing whether it's the Olympic movement, the Paralympic movement, like, everybody can get involved now, which is beautiful.
That's right.
So I just want to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to experience what sports can do for you. And for me in particular, what's really special is team sports.
Yeah.
I feel like basketball saved me so many times growing up. Having that family away from your real family, you have family problems, you might have issues at school, you might have issues outside of school with like crowds that you might get involved with and so on. Basketball was always my safe space. It gave me discipline. The coaches that I had the opportunity to work with really helped to shape me as a person. Having women that loved the same things as me surrounding me made me into who I am today. And, I've found lifelong friends through basketball. And so I want to make sure that I help young girls have that opportunity. And as much as I would love for them to fall in love with basketball, it doesn't have to be that. If you fall in love with volleyball, netball, swimming, because it brings you a sense of peace, whatever it might be, get involved in sports, because it teaches you so many things about life. So some of the things that I focused on, and I guess my remit, I'll start from sports and then maybe we can talk about the business side, but from a sports side, I try and get involved from a grassroots level all the way to the pro level. So from a grassroots level, obviously I'm on the Diversity and Inclusion Committee with Basketball England. So we work on several initiatives there. But personally, I mostly try and offer access to people that maybe don't have the means to access what they need to. So I'm very blessed that from my sneaker sort of path, I'm able to work with lots of brands on the product side of things. So I work specifically with Nike quite a lot. So I'm sure that I give back to the community. So they're able to perform like they need to. You know, sometimes I talk to parents and kids, and they've bought a pair of shoes that's 6 sizes too big because they need, you know, they're expensive. Kicks are expensive. Like 180 for a pair of shoes. Insane. Some families can't afford that. So you buy it big and you hope your kids will grow into that. So I try and offer access to product. I try and coach, even though I'm still trying to get my full qualification. So mostly in a support role, but I don't know if you know Coach Ruth and Coach Lisa.
Yes.
They're actually the coaches of the team that I play for as well in D2 called All Stars. They do plenty for the community. So I try and support them in all of their endeavors as much as possible. So from a grassroots level, it's really, giving that access and making sure that people can perform as best as possible. And then that, I think, also goes towards education on the game and visibility of the game as well from a pro level. Women's sports is obviously seeing an incredible sort of growth right now. There's a lot more interest, thank God, because they deserve all the praise and all the eyeballs that they can get. But all the work that I do, whether it's with FIBA on EuroLeague Women, where I went to present the Women's World Cup, and we're trying to do content that maybe is a little bit less technical on the basketball side and present these athletes more on their human side, so girls can relate more and maybe, see somebody that they want to be like, because maybe they have a similar background or maybe they have similar passion points, like outside of basketball. For example, when I was interviewing Gabby Williams, she talks about anime and tattoos and comic books,
nice.
Try to find those connections so younger generations can be like, oh shit, like Gabby Williams, she's so dope. Like I want to be like her. She's a professional basketball player. I can do that too. I want to make sure that people know that there's other avenues in sports as well, not just the being an athlete. There's so much that you can do. So I'm always trying to tell my story about how I've merged together all of my passion points to get to where I'm at now, where I work in sports, but behind the scenes, because my basketball skills were definitely not up to where they needed to be making a living. And then I also just try and make my own content to really push these stories. So I do a series called WNBA for Dummies, where I try and bring new basketball fans into the WNBA and tell them how everything works, since it does work quite different from the NBA. So I try and give as many touch points as possible.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you touched on something where you said was beyond just the playing of the sport. So, which is one of the reasons why we started this podcast and titled it Beyond the Athlete, because we want to show, especially the younger generation, that you can still be a player, but then each league has a certain number of people that can actually play in those leagues. You can still work towards that, but then there's so many other things that you can do. So what we try to do is use this platform to also enhance and develop other passions as well. So I always use myself being able to bring to my two worlds together, which is fashion and basketball together, basically, and create something like Basketball Nation, and really pushing that, but then also doing things like starting a podcast, showing that I can actually be a host or presenter or wherever, or someone that can have a conversation. The next thing might be maybe designing a sneaker for basketball to show that, okay, I can also be a designer as well, product designer. So it's really showing a lot of these young guys that, that there's other things that are possible that you can actually do and create and just be as successful as well and still play the sport, because there's so many other leagues that are happening right now. I was meant to speak to a guy called Ron, who works with Surgeon Studios in LA, and they have a league called The League, and I've heard of it, and just listen to his story. but obviously I haven't interviewed him yet. We're actually doing it next week, Monday. But then looking at some of the content on social media and listening to his story as well, it's quite interesting because it's like it may not look as big as maybe EuroLeague or NBA now, but the concept is amazing. So there's so much fitness that we can actually create and innovate that could not just be completely different from the top leagues, but also counter the top leagues eventually. So I think that's quite interesting that you actually mentioned that as well, because that's quite important. So I was gonna actually, oh, sorry, go on.
No, sorry, I was just gonna say, like, on that, there's just genuinely like so many avenues you can go down, whether it's, you know, people that can do street ball style. So if anybody follows a woman called Jenna Bandy out in the States, she's got, you know, like, I think nearly 1 million followers because she does trick shots and plays a million different sports. Of course, she played college basketball. She knows how to play basketball, but she's built a personality off the back of that. And then giving shout outs to like local talent in the UK, but like Desi Reels and the guys from SBB, you know, they've created huge followings, not from being the best basketball players, but from being creative and smart and making content that works and resonates, and it's cool and building that community and bringing people together. And that's obviously more in the public eye in front of the camera, but then there's loads of people behind the scenes of those things as well. So whether you're working for a brand, maybe you work in their commercial department making cool brands with athletes, or whether you're a lawyer working for a sports team, or whether again you work in broadcast and maybe you're a camera operator, but you get to travel the world and be a camera operator, for example, in Formula One, where you get to go to 23 races around the world. So I think, it's very important to, especially for younger generations, I don't think at school you really ever get told, and not even at university, you never get told all the avenues you could go down. So it's either like you're going to be a doctor, an engineer, or a lawyer. But actually, every business and sports as a business has so many different things you could do: marketing, PR, graphic design. So as long as, if you want to work in sports and that's your one obsession, there's so many ways that you can get there without having to be the sickest player.
That's true. Okay, so my next question is around you again. What is it, obviously you've spoken about your passions, what are your interests as someone that's into gaming, sports, sneakers, and maybe there's so much more that we don't know. Maybe you like classic movies, or you're into a certain type of music, but it'd be great to know that side of you as well.
To be honest, a bit of everything. I'm a very curious person, so I'm not an expert in anything, but I like lots of different things. And I also just love finding out new things. So I always try and surround myself with people that are going to introduce me to new things. But I am an avid reader. I love reading, so read quite a lot. I love collecting. Oh, and if I could show you, I love classic cars. I think that was my father's influence. So I've got a digital background, so you can't see, but I have a very large, like, vintage 70s Alfa Romeo, like LED sign. So I've got lots of car things around my house. I love vinyls, so music in general. I've got a big vinyl collection. I love art. I'm a member at the Design Museum. I go to the Design Museum like most weeks. Amazing. So just everything that has sort of cultural and iconic influence on our lives. I try to be curious and take inspiration from everything around me.
Okay, that's interesting. I'm pretty much the same, but mine is I've just started getting into cars, to be honest with you. Because we actually, myself and the family, we actually, because I come from like a bigger community as well, because my wife mentors quite a few young people also, and we decided to do a car rally over the weekend as well with some supercars. But the classic cars would be also an amazing thing. So I think next year we're actually going to add those in there as well and just make it bigger.
You need to go to Goodwood. To the
Goodwood,
festival.
yes. I know about Goodwood. Okay, that's a good shout. That's a good shout, actually. Yeah, I'll look into that. And in terms of what you said, it's almost like those things help trigger your mind, and something unusual kind of gets created in your mind, basically. Correct me if I'm wrong, because it happens to me as well. So I watch animes. I'm really into animes. I'm into sort of like Korean dramas as well. Especially like the old ones, when you have the Empress and the Emperor and all that kind of stuff. Because I feel like there's always so much things in there that can be overlooked, that you're like, okay, maybe this can still be applied to now as well. And then from animes, it's more like the creativity, the design, like how things are drawn. I even look at their clothing sometimes, like who thinks of these things, basically. So I like unusual, like crazy, out of this world things, because it makes me think beyond just my normal mindset, basically, or what we see online, etc. So yeah, it's quite interesting to know that. What sort of music are you into? That's another question.
To be honest, I listen to anything. I've got like loads of Motown, R&B,
Nice.
Italian
Amazing.
music that was passed down from my grandparents and parents. This morning I was listening to Andre 3000's new
album. Still yet to download it, but
yeah. So yeah, literally a bit of everything. I don't have one genre that I'm really heavy on. And yeah, maybe showing my age a little bit, but I like to play music as well.
Not at all. Okay. I want to dive into the gaming side of things, because gaming is a big part of me as well. And it's actually a big part of Basketball Nation, even though we don't showcase it as much yet. Because we're now really trying to really support and empower, if for the lack of better words, gamers as well, because we realize that there's quite a few gamers, obviously, going back to that whole ethos of beyond the athlete within the community, and really trying to really push them into the direction that they want to go to and make them the best that they can be. So like, for example, like during the summer, we hosted the NBA 2K tournament here with a few guys who could make it, basically, just to kind of like introduce ourselves to that space. But this is something that we want to do even long term, because we actually want to design and develop our own game as well. We know it's going to take a while, but that's in our long-term plans, basically. So yeah, so in terms of the world of gaming, how did you get into that, and what's that like for you right now as well?
Yeah, so in all honesty, I wasn't much of a gamer before. Like, yeah, I have a PS4, I play some 2K, I play some FIFA, grew up with my Nintendo, but very casual gamer. But when I was working at Formula One, COVID hit, and we started doing virtual Grand Prix. So with like sim racing primarily. And I was seeing like how good the numbers were in terms of broadcast. People were really getting into it because it's so similar to real life racing. We were getting like cool celebrities in, the drivers were getting involved.
Nice.
And then I was literally contacted by, at the time it was Face It, now it's ESL Face It Group. We went through a big merger and acquisition about a year ago. And they reached out saying, you know, would you be interested in helping us develop our commercial proposition? So as you said, like, I'm the director of commercial strategy. So I focus on the commercial division and sort of bringing in more money, primarily through sponsorships and partnerships, but we do some licensing, we do media deals and so on. And I thought it was a really cool opportunity. I'd been in Formula One for 3 years. I was sort of ready for a change. COVID was really affecting the world, and gaming felt like a very safe space within that. Because obviously you can game anytime. Doesn't matter if
basically.
You're home, you're locked in your house and so on. So I decided to make the move over, and it's coming up to 3 years in March, and it's been a wild ride. Gaming is just, I mean, pretty much everybody's a gamer. I think the stats are like 3 billion people worldwide are gamers, because it could be your mom that plays Candy Crush.
Exactly.
Your little brother that's, you know, playing Counter-Strike on his PC, or it could be you playing COD with your mates on your console. So it's really something for everyone. And what I love most about it is, again, how culturally relevant gaming is, and how it really is in every aspect of our life, and how genuinely just everybody takes part in it. And we actually did a very cool documentary series, and one of the people that was in it was Ariel Powers, who's a WNBA player that plays for the Minnesota Lynx. And her followers probably know this because she's always streaming on Twitch. But if you don't follow her, she is hardcore gamer. Like on her off season in the W, she's gaming full time. She's a pro gamer, and she's also co-owner of Team Liquid out in LA.
Wow.
She's fully like diversified her athlete persona and portfolio.
Yeah.
And I probably think she makes more money from gaming than she does from being and again, like people never think that's possible, but of course it's possible. There's tons of NBA players that game on the side, and like look at what LeBron does with PlayStation and all of those collaborations.
Yeah.
So again, like huge opportunities in gaming, super culturally relevant, so many different games that you can get stuck into. And yeah, again, lots of opportunities. So I've really enjoyed it.
That's amazing. I think I really got into the whole gaming space maybe 2 years ago because I didn't know anything much about it. I just thought people just play games. I didn't think that you could make money from it or be a pro and all that stuff. And I actually find it quite interesting. So I've been really doing my studying on that space. So it's even great that I'm getting to speak to you. I think you're the first person I've spoken to on this podcast that has a hand in gaming as well. So hopefully beyond this podcast, I can obviously speak to you about what we plan to do as well. And
absolutely.
Hopefully you can kind of give us some tips and advice on how we go about it as well. So obviously I'm not trying to go down every single role you've done, but I was quite interested in how you got involved in Basketball England as well. Obviously we have an affiliation with them as a basketball community that's not an actual basketball team. And that was basically just from randomly meeting at an event, Olan Jackman, that played on the Commonwealth team. And we played against each other on the 18s. He was playing at Hackney. I was playing for London West Side. And we actually, funny enough, we actually played on the same team with a few other people. I was the worst player on the team, but I was defensive. I couldn't score, but I was like lockdown defender. Midnight Madness years ago, and we won like 21 games straight. I will never forget that. Yeah, I think I still have the picture of that as well. I was so skinny that my top was falling off my shoulder. My t-shirt was falling off my shoulder. But yeah, so and then he introduced me to the main guys at Basketball England, and then literally just asked me what I do, and then from there just got in touch with them over email and then got affiliated with them, which was quite good for us because it kind of showed integrity on our side as well when we actually approached brands, etc. So with the work that you do, because I don't know what ED and I is, if you can explain to us what that is, what your role is there, and what sort of impact you're making within the basketball space from that role itself.
Yeah, so ED&I stands for Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. So what Basketball England did was open up an opportunity for people to apply to be on this committee to show how they wanted to affect change in basketball. You didn't have to be a basketball player. You didn't have to be affiliated to basketball in any way. But it's like if you have a passion for basketball and you want to see the sport grow and be more inclusive and make sure that everybody has equal opportunities within it, you can apply. Benny Bonsu used to be the chair of it. I don't know if you know Benny, but she's a big influence in the basketball world, both in the UK, in Africa now. She's doing a lot for the BAL, and obviously she works for the channel. So I wrote my application, managed to get on. I think it's about 12 of us on the committee, and people really span all sorts of different roles. There's people that come from boxing, from athletics, there's basketball coaches. It's a real mix of people that all love basketball and want to see it improve. And what we mainly focus on is to make sure that there are equal opportunities. So it stems off the back of the initiatives that Basketball England might have. So for example, they have a program for young girls. and we try and support how that program could be most beneficial and how they could set that up to make sure that it does work all across the UK, for example, not just London, how they can better work with clubs and so on to make it inclusive. For example, we help with policies that are anti-racism, for example. So we help develop those to make sure that, again, Basketball England is providing the best support system for all of its players. And I think we're probably all aware, but basketball in this country is primarily played by Black boys and girls, women and men. Need to make sure that all of the Black players feel like this is their home and they are comfortable and they're not, feeling like it's not a safe space for them. So we work on all of those policies too. But yeah, overall, it is making sure that basketball is diverse, but once it is diverse, that everybody feels included and that it's a place where they belong.
Amazing. I like that. It's almost like its own community within, like a community platform within Basketball England itself, which is quite powerful. So that's good. That's great to know. Okay, so I actually wanted to ask about when it comes to your journey. I always believe that mentorship is quite key to a person's growth. Mentorship or mentorship as well. Did you have anything like that over the years, and do you still have something like that now? And also, do you mentor younger ladies, guys, etc. also?
So I wouldn't say I've had any sort of formal mentorship in terms of like formal agreements, but ever since I was a pretty young kid, I think I've always been the annoying kid that knocks on everybody's door and asks a million questions, and I will knock down every door until I get an answer. I think the most important thing to remember when you're looking for a mentor, even in the informal setting of a mentor, is that people are busy, people have a lot going on. So for me, it's always been better to have more than one person to tap into rather than just the one person that I always went to for help. So that's true throughout my school career, at university, and especially in my career at work. I've been lucky enough to have had women in more senior positions than me that I've been able to tap into. Sometimes women, we suffer from the fear that there's not space for all of us, and instead of working together and collaborating, we fight each other. I've been lucky that I've been surrounded by very supportive women that have really championed me. I've championed them. When looking for mentors, I would always say tap into lots of different people, even if it's people your age. I have so many girlfriends and guy friends that are my age, younger than me, that teach me so much. Mentorship doesn't always have to be.
It has to be old. That's true.
It doesn't have to be that. Like, I have friends that are 21, 22 that teach me loads and tap me into stuff that I'm no longer so aware of because, I'm 30 now and focused on other things in life. And so look for mentorship wherever you can. Don't be fixated on the fact that a mentor needs to be somebody senior in a company and older than you. And then, so yeah, I definitely have mentors in the informal sense of the word mentor. I have awesome peers that I tap into in plenty of different industries. And then in terms of me giving mentorship, again, I don't give any formal mentorship. I have in the past. I've been part of the gaming mentorship schemes for people that want to get in gaming. I've been part of schemes where people want to work in sports. Now I've sort of taken a step back from the formal side of things, but I always have my doors open. I pretty much answer every LinkedIn message I get. What I tend to like is, I think sometimes people are a little bit, and I've done this in the past as well. I think people can be a bit entitled with other people's time, and that then they don't use it. They don't use that time that is given to them appropriately, which is what I've struggled with in the past. Like, if you're coming to me, come to me because you're curious about certain things that I might have done, and you think that I could unlock certain things for you. So come with questions, come with stuff that is relevant to me. Don't ask me, you know, don't look for mentorship with me. For example, if you want to be a professional basketball player, I am probably not the person that can mentor you for that, because I'm not a professional basketball player, and I don't even work in the, you know, the physical field of basketball. However, if you're like, oh, I love presenting, hosting, how did you do this? How did you do that? Cool, let's talk. So just what I would say to people is, don't just tap into everyone. Decide who you want to tap into, and then be direct with what you're asking for, and make that person understand why you're the person that you want that mentorship from.
Yeah. Amazing. I always tell people this. LeBron James is super star, because one of the reasons why I believe he stays relevant is around what you just said. Mentorship is not, I'm younger, my mentor is older. It's two-way thing. If you notice, he's very much in touch with high school basketball players and the college basketball players, even much more than the NBA players, because for him, he's always thinking, what does the future look like? So he adapts to that future. But at the same time, they also learn from him in terms of how to be a professional, how he's had such a long longevity within his career as well. So I think that's quite powerful. And it's so important, because even one of my mentors, he's 5 years younger than me. So, but he's been, he works as an engineer, but his brain, like if I go to him about certain things, you ask certain questions that I may not have thought about, and it always unlocks something in my mind that, oh yeah, that's true. Okay, cool, I can do it this way, or I can do it that way. So those sort of people are super important, and it doesn't have to be about age or anything like that at all. So you're 100%. Absolutely correct. Yeah.
And I literally always say to people, I think generally the most important quality somebody could have in life is curiosity. Like, if you're curious in life and you ask people questions, and like, you know, you see what's up, you talk to different people, everybody has something to offer. It doesn't matter if they're an engineer and have nothing. Like, the way an engineer will solve a problem or will talk to you about something is so different to how a videographer might talk to you about something that maybe has a more like creative eye to something. So just always like diversify your circle, because everybody has so much to offer. You just have to know what questions to ask and how to unlock that knowledge that they have.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so my next question is around grassroots, especially when it comes to basketball. And I didn't want to specify just to women's basketball only, because I want it to be more of a general answer. So in terms of grassroots basketball, especially in the UK, where do you see it going in the next few years? Especially because the reason why I say that is because I feel like there's still a separation when it comes to even things like the BBL and grassroots basketball teams or grassroots basketball communities. There's a massive separation that could actually become a lot more closer, a lot more knitted together to actually really push the game forward. Is there anything else that maybe you've seen or have an idea of that could actually enable that to happen in the future?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're spot on, where there's definitely a gap between what's been happening in the pro circles of UK basketball now and grassroots. I think BBL and some of the teams obviously have seen good investment, and we're seeing good growth, more eyeballs, more people attending games, which is fantastic. Have I seen that have a ripple effect on grassroots? Not yet. I think obviously this country is, as much as your podcast is called Basketball Nation, I don't think we're quite there yet. We're not a basketball nation. And as much as I think statistically it's the second most played sport in the UK in terms of participation.
Yeah.
I think there's huge problems from a facility point of view. There's just not enough facilities for the number of people that want to play. The quality of the facilities is not good enough. You know, I come from Italy, where we're also a football nation in Italy, but basketball is way more it is more of a basketball country. It's more loved. And for being a country that financially is not as healthy as the UK, basketball still thrives a bit more. But that's also because the government investments here in basketball have really lacked on an international level, whether it's, you know, the Olympic Games and the national teams and what they do there. We've seen a bit of betterment for Commonwealth. Again, doesn't get enough attention. So I think grassroots has a really long way to go in terms of investment and structure of it. I would personally love to see basketball take a bit more of a influential stance in school curriculum. Like, I think if basketball become a stronger pillar of the physical education curriculum in schools and more attention was given to it, we would see better growth. Because again, I don't think everybody has the possibility to play after school basketball or whatever it might be. That always takes investment or the right communities to and that's not possible everywhere. While school, you know, everybody has to attend school up to a certain age. So if basketball is a bigger part of that, I think we'd see really great growth. But overall, I hope that we keep seeing people that have found success in basketball that can give back to grassroots. So I love seeing, you know, I don't know if you know Shanice Beckford-Norton, who plays for the London Knights, everything that she does with coaching now and what she's doing there. Like, when players start to give back that way, I think that can shift things for grassroots. And similarly, I hope that we can keep growing the game away from just the playing. Like, we need referees, we need officials,
coaches.
So, like, I have a teammate, captain of my team. She's now working really hard on all of her refereeing qualifications. She went to, I think it was Slovenia with FIBA to do a refereeing camp. She was one of the only Black women there. You know, like, seeing stuff like that is inspirational. It's awesome. And I hope that grassroots also develops in those areas as well.
No, that's actually true. You've actually made me think about that now. So now you've triggered something in my mind. And you're absolutely right that we do need more referees and more coaches. But then at the same time, I also think that a lot of the young players, because they're only just starting to see that growth within basketball, it's almost like that's like their full focus. But then maybe it's good that we kind of like cast the net a lot wider beyond just the young guys and ladies that actually play, but people that may have an interest. It's almost like building a football team and then that one person just wants to be a goalkeeper. It's exactly the same thing. So it'll be good to kind of really find people like that as well that will be interested in that side of things, from refereeing to coaching, etc. So I think, you know, kids absolutely should dream about being the next LeBron, the next Candace Parker. Like, I would never tell kids not to dream about that, but I think it's awesome to just also present all the different possibilities and like how cool and diverse the sport can be. And you know, you can do stuff alongside it, you know, as like, you know, a 14-year-old can be a great basketball player, but also learn about refereeing and being a table official and being a coach and develop all those skills at once. So yeah, I hope grassroots can really develop in all those areas. Yeah, definitely. So what are the future plans, especially from 2024 onwards, for Giulia?
Oh God, I try and not plan ahead too much. I'm very much a go with the flow person, and I tend to just say yes to opportunities that present themselves, even though obviously it's not like I'm sitting back and waiting for things to fall in my lap. Always make the most of my time and networking and meeting the right people. But mainly next year, we'll really be focused on Sneaker Sisterhood, celebrating our 5 years. So pushing that to the next level and seeing what we can do for, you know, women in fashion and sneakers, and how to make sure that everybody is getting a seat at a table. Obviously, gaming still going to be my full-time gig. So traveling the world for awesome gaming tournaments, working with the coolest brands.
Nice.
And bringing to life really awesome partnerships. And then I actually tore my ACL in summer and had surgery. So I'm now 4 months post-surgery. So no basketball playing.
Oh man, that's the hardest.
Yeah. So also does mean I have more free time. So with that free
That's
time, I'm
true.
trying to build in and around the world of basketball. So continuing in my presenting, being more supportive to UK basketball, especially on the women's side, and continuing the
Yeah.
work there. So working on a couple new content series and see what I can do there.
Oh, amazing. Amazing. Nice, nice. Okay, so obviously we're coming towards the end of the episodes. I'm a bit sad, but we can we can always do a part 2 later on, or we can have, and we'll definitely have a conversation after this. So just a few other questions that I have. My next question is, do you have a question for me?
What are your plans? Like, where do you think the biggest gap is that you're trying to fill, and where do you want to take Basketball Nation as a whole?
Okay, biggest gap I would say, which is pretty much still in line with women's sports and grassroots, is really connectivity. Being able to connect with the world, the global community of basketball players and basketball enthusiasts. So one of our plans was actually to create a platform under what we do now, Basketball Nation, that can connect a basketball trainer here with an athlete in Brazil, basically, where they can
Awesome.
communicate the relationship. Platforms to also enable them to not just meet digitally, but we can actually provide ways that they can actually meet personally as well. So it builds the whole economy of basketball as a sport. It builds relationships, solid relationships, and it just builds a community that now, because you have the UK community, you have the American community. When I interviewed Matt from Baller's Life, he had no clue per se on UK basketball, even though it's on Instagram, but you don't really get to see it because there's so many other things on Instagram. So, but if you can have one space where it's just completely basketball and sports and just players, enthusiasts, trainers, coaches, teams, player development people, companies that create merch, like all those things, it's almost like a home for basketball, basically. And I think connectivity has been one of the biggest things that we've been missing as a global sports brand or community, etc., in the space of basketball. So that's one gap that I've seen. The other gap is, as a basketball community, knowing that the limit is not just building grassroots or building the sport from a community standpoint, but actually becoming a brand. Because I think that would open up space for younger people to actually see a bit more into the future. Because I think sometimes if we give, especially the younger generation, just a little bit of what we're capable of, then it's almost like, okay, when they get to that, what's next? We don't want them to look at other people, maybe the wrong crowds that are doing really well in something else, and then once they surpass us, they go there, basically. So we always want to keep pushing the narrative. So as much as we may be a community, we also want to be a governing body within basketball in the future as well, whether it's within the UK, alongside Basketball England, maybe a governing body for other leagues, maybe leagues that are created by other community leaders as well, 3x3 leagues, etc. And even globally in Europe as well, because I feel like it's great to have one governing body in Europe and in the UK, but it will be also better to have more than one, because competition always pushes the narrative a bit more forward, should I say. So that's all I can give away in terms of our plans, but there's so much more. I could talk here for days. So yeah.
Love that. And I love especially the connectivity point. I couldn't agree more. And also it's important from a global standpoint. And I also think it's important from a local standpoint, because I think when people get into the sport, you know, you don't have to be 11 to start playing ball. Like you could be a 40-year-old woman and maybe you want to try something new. And I think it can be a bit daunting.
Yeah.
So knowing that there's that community, and knowing that there's a place where you can go to connect with that community without feeling like, you need to rock up to a run that you've never been to and it's terrifying. But maybe you connect to a player that is in Brazil and doing something similar to you, and you can start talking online. You can meet a coach down the road that maybe wants to help you one-on-one to begin with. It's so important. Yeah,
definitely. Okay, so next question is start, bench, trades, MJ, Kobe, LeBron.
No, come on. That should be an illegal question.
That's why I'm asking it, because it is an illegal question.
Start, bench, trade. Okay, I'm gonna find a way around this. Based on age, we're gonna have to bench MJ because he's looking a little tired.
Okay.
He just doesn't have the fresh legs, so we're just gonna let him do his thing.
Okay.
We're gonna start Kobe. And we're gonna trade Bron, and now all the Bron lovers are gonna come at me. I love LeBron. He's the king. He's great. He's the greatest of his generation, not of all time, of his generation. But I like more of a. No, I've got nothing to say. We're gonna trade Bron, though. We're gonna trade Bron.
You can get some good pieces of Bron.
Yeah, exactly. I'll take the next 5 first pick round kids for Bron. I'll build a super
Maybe you can
team.
Get Wembanyama.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'll take Wemby, a couple of young bucks.
Yeah. Amazing. Okay, so last but not least, who would you like to see on the podcast, or who would you recommend to see on the podcast? Because Kelly recommended you, so.
Who would I recommend? Kelly is awesome, by the way. Her brand is incredible.
Is amazing.
I would recommend potentially Jelinka Naima. She works for FIBA. She's a communication manager at FIBA, and she's overall epic human that has worked for FIBA, played professional basketball in Switzerland for the national team. She's played at K54, the street ball tournament in Paris. She's very pregnant right now, so I don't know if you'll be able to get her soon. She would be a great person to talk to, because I feel like her life experiences in basketball have been they're like beyond the athlete vibe.
Okay, amazing. That's a shout. Maybe once she gives birth, give her a few months, then I'll get in touch. But Giulia, it's been amazing. Thank you very much for coming on today. I've enjoyed our conversation. We were going to do 45 minutes, but the conversation was so juicy that we didn't even check time. So but I appreciate you taking out the time today, and it's been amazing. And thank you everyone for also watching today. Hope you guys were able to learn a lot from our conversation. Don't forget to subscribe, like if you do like the podcast, and also comment as well. Your feedback is always grateful, because we want to keep improving in terms of what we do with our platform for you guys. And feel free to also reach out to Giulia as well, with the fact that she traded LeBron. No, I'm joking.
No, please don't come for me.
But if you want to just reach out and connect with her, feel free to do that on Instagram as well. But it's been amazing, and I hope to see you guys soon. Coach David out. Peace. Thank you, Giulia. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.